We have two big pitching returns and one major injury announcement to talk about up next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Thursday, June 20th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White, and let's talk about the pitching returns. Gerrit Cole, finally back, made his season debut up against the Orioles. He allowed 2 runs over 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, only 6 whiffs on 62 pitches. Did allow some hard contact, fastball velocity down a little bit. More than anything, Scott, I just want to see Gerrit Cole bounce back, be ready to go for his next start. Do you have any takeaways for Gerrit Cole's season debut?
I mean, I hoped for better. I think if there was a 4-start sample of this, we'd be freaking out. The fact the velocity was down and he gave up so much hard contact. It's not what I wanted to see, but it is the first start. It is a 1-start sample after kind of a hurried buildup in the minors. And I don't really want to take anything away from it. As you said, I don't think he's out of the woods as far as the elbow goes. I don't think this start would suggest that. And so I've been reluctant to move him back into the top 5 in my starting pitcher rankings, which is obviously where Gerrit Cole would belong if he was 100% in the clear. But, lines up for 2 starts next week. I'm not going to hesitate to start him. And hopefully he'll look more like the Gerrit Cole we remember in them.
And if you're wondering where we moved Gerrit Cole up to in the rankings, Scott has him at SP27. I have him at SP24, and Chris has him at SP28. So all similar range, hedging our bets a little bit to make sure we see Gerrit Cole healthy for a little bit, and then if he is, we move him up. Let's talk about Bobby Miller, who made his return not so great in Coors Field. What a terrible landing spot to return after months of being out. You got to go to Coors Field, where he allowed 6 1/3. He went 6 1/3. He allowed 5 runs, 3 walks to 2 strikeouts. Gave up 9 hard hits in this one. Velocity mostly looked fine. It was down about a tick. Hard to take anything away from this one either, Scott, because it was in Coors Field. But what'd you think? Would you be looking to buy low on Bobby Miller right now?
I mean, if he's a realistic buy low candidate, I don't think most people are going to take much away from this start. Again, I'd hoped for better. And obviously Bobby Miller has a lot more to prove than Gerrit Cole, even because we're not totally sure he's like an ace caliber pitcher in fantasy. Though we have some hopes he can become that. Yeah, I think if nothing else, the fact he threw his fastball and changeup a combined 80% of the time almost tells you it was not conventional Bobby Miller, because Bobby Miller mixes up a lot of pitches, the slider, the curveball. He shied away from them probably because he was pitching at Coors Field and they weren't going to get as much movement. So, yeah, hard to take anything away from it. Even if it didn't happen in Coors Field, I would obviously not put that much on one start for Bobby Miller. Let's see how the next one goes.
Yeah, the next one, by the way, looks like it will be at the White Sox. Are you starting Bobby Miller in that matchup? It's a great one.
Gotta think I am with that matchup.
Yeah, I think so too. The big news from Wednesday is that Kyle Bradish underwent Tommy John surgery with an internal brace, and he was first diagnosed with a partial UCL tear in his elbow back in February, but returned, pitched really well in 8 starts. Obviously, the injury then resurfaced. Their GM, Mike Elias, said that he expects Bradish to miss 12 to 18 months, which means we might not see him at all in 2025. I don't know. There's not much else to add here from a redraft perspective. Keeper and Dynasty, this is terrible. We might not see him next year at all. Any takeaways on Bradish, the injury, and what the Orioles might do, if anything? Maybe try and trade for another pitcher.
Yeah, maybe. Cade Povich made his 3rd career start, and he didn't look great. Not a lot of whiffs, a lot of walks. Kind of went like his first major league start, and then there was that one good one against a slumping Braves lineup in the middle. So I don't feel confident Cade Povich is the answer, though he potentially could be. They're going to get Dean Kramer back at some point from the IO, you would think, and maybe that'll solve the issue. But I would imagine just because their pitching depth has been so depleted by injury, the Orioles will look to acquire somebody at the break. As for Bradish, yeah, it's a real bummer. He was pitching really well despite the injury that dates back to spring training, obviously. That makes it all the more impressive the way he was pitching. But I don't think we're going to be thinking about him again until 2026.
Yep. Very unfortunate for Bradish. We'll see what the Orioles go out and do. Some names floated out there: Jesus Luzardo, Eric Fetty, Garrett Crochet. Perhaps they go out and make another move this season. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Odyssey app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.